Hello viewers and welcome to another war video here. First war of season 61. I haven't put out anything since the end of season 60 when I decided to start doing voiceover on these videos. So here we go. Let's jump right into the first war of season 61, first fight. We got a Sasquatch here. So this node primarily is about the ebb and flow knockdown. Dust obviously has good ways to deal with the unstoppable that's going to come up, so that's not really going to be a huge issue. Just going to work with that ebb and flow knockdown. So I didn't do the heavy immediately here because I wanted to at least build up some prowess. That was, I guess, the thought behind that, but it's really not a huge deal. This is just kind of a long fight. Sasquatch are obviously very beefy health pool, very beefy defender, so just going to kind of have to chip through this with the pattern that you kind of see going on here. So keep these knockdowns going. Watching that ebb and flow timer, I wanted this special one to trigger that again. So I'm just going to do basic attacks here, get my full damage from those basic attacks. I'm not too worried about the whole the dust kind of cycle of special 2 with the stun into special 1s and all that. He goes stun immune like he is right now. He also has a lot of combat power rate, so I'm not too worried about spamming a bunch of specials. I'm just going to kind of play this pretty carefully, make sure I'm not wasting too many hits into ebb and flow, and then it's fairly straightforward. So we're already almost done with this fight here. I'm just going to throw special 2 into the protection because I can follow it up with a special 1 here. So not really too bad. I'm missing out some damage on special 2, but I just feel like it was a lot easier to do that. Okay, and we're almost done. I think the special one's going to take him pretty close. Not quite yet. One more special from him, and then this fight's going to be over. So there you go. Just under 2 minutes, I believe. Yep. Again, just kind of a slow and steady fight. Nothing too crazy going on there. So let's move to the next one. Very next fight on the path here going to be Nick Fury. Again, ebb and flow knockdown. However, this is a pretty common placement because of the heavy hitter node. So as Nick Fury goes into his second life, he's stun immune. And so typically when you're fighting Nick Fury, right, you're going to want to bait those heavies in second life to get your openings. Well, on this node, he has heavy hitter, so you're not going to be able to intercept that unless you have a way to counter the unstoppable. So that's dust is very good counter for this node for that reason. So I was a little sketchy right there. Right, the ebb and flow really just came back and cleared that stun right as I was hitting him. So I could have gotten a little unlucky there, but it's not a huge deal. Even a few hits there wouldn't have been too bad. So otherwise, this is fairly straightforward fight. The biggest thing is when we do get down to second life here, want to make sure that we are only heavy countering when we are either in Sandstorm, where Sandstorm's already active, or it's available, it's off cooldown. Again, otherwise that unstoppable is really going to hurt us because then we can't heavy counter him. So here I'm just going to dance back and forth a bunch, waiting for a special 2. Go in, hit him a couple times. He wasn't really cooperating with the heavy there, so you're going to kind of see what I meant here. I'm going to have to just take some blocked hits, try to get some reparries there, limit the damage. See, I could not heavy counter that, okay? But I can heavy counter the next one. My Sandstorm was on cooldown. Going to bait that heavy there. Now it's safe to heavy counter because that gets me the grit from Sandstorm, and then this fight's pretty much over at this point. So that's the whole trick with this node, really. If you have a way to counter that heavy hitter, the unstoppable, then you're pretty good to go. So pretty clean fight there with Dust, minute and a half, and he's in the bin. So let's move on to the next one. Up next is a fight that you may have seen a couple times before. I believe I have at least a couple videos of this last season, including one that I did voice on. So this is 22 Void. Fairly straightforward for Nick Fury, especially when you're fully, skill boosted up, which I'm doing here in the background. The big trick here is that there are severe debuffs going on. So you're not going to be able to purify those. Well, if Nick Fury gets down to his second life, he clears everything, so that's great. Now, the trick here is that Void is now a tactic defender. So I've never done this fight with Void being a tactic defender, and Nick is not a tactic attacker. So I'm going to start this the same way, do the knockdown, get the purify, get my Fury. But if I get 5 debuffs on me throughout this fight, and you can see a counter on the Unstoppable over there under Void. I didn't get a stun there, so that's already kind of not as good as this could be. But if I get 5 debuffs on me, Void's going to go Unstoppable. And that's going to be bad, because I have to wait it out. I don't have an Unstoppable counter. It's even worse when I get hit. But he's Unstoppable. I can't hit him. I just kind of have to wait for all this damage to come through. So I couldn't even punish that. So this is all like pretty sketchy. I did that knockdown to clear my debuffs and get Furies. But I'm ticking down super fast here. Pretty glad I got those Furies, so that special 2 would knock him out. But yeah, super fast fight, super hectic fight. The Unstoppable here is risky. I should have paid a little bit more attention to the Unstoppable, but it's still pretty tricky because you can wait it out, and that part's fine. But again, when you wait it out on that fight, and you got a bunch of debuffs, well, you're just going to tick down. So pretty good placement, pretty tricky, but we got it done. So final fight here for this war is a 31 Dust. I've also done this one a couple times in videos last season, so the trick here is that shortly after the fight starts, Dust is basically going to be unblockable the whole fight. I'm starting with a heavy there. The reason I did that is because it gives me the endurance, Future Ant-Man being a tactic attacker. So that lets me counter the Unstoppable that she's inevitably going to get at some point. Okay, and as long as I keep knocking her down, then I'm going to keep that endurance, which is going to keep letting me counter the Unstoppable, and I'm good from there. But I really just wanted to make sure I started the fight with that, so that I was, it didn't sneak up on me like it did in the last fight. So you may notice I'm also just kind of ignoring the power stings. I've done this node a number of times, and the power stings are just not a problem to eat them on basically every time you throw a special. So I pretty much just ignore the power stings. And there you go. Pretty fast Future Ant-Man fight. Get the bursts down. And that's the end of this war. So thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in the next one.